Clash of Clans has dominated the real-time strategy genre for over a decade, and in that time, there's been a mountain of content, spin-offs, and world building worth looking into. So I'm gonna do just that and figure out the real story of this franchise. Hi everybody, I'm here in our interview room thingy, whatever these are called. Today we have a special high-in-demand collaboration with another beloved face I'm sure you all know and love. Please give it up for today's special guest, Choopo. Hi everybody, thank you Choopo for having me. Very excited to be here and help out where I can. Thanks again for having me, by the way. Stop, do not look at me like that. Never face that way again. That looks so disgusting. Stop doing that. Genuinely, that makes me sick. We're not doing that here. Okay, Clash time, here we go. The Clash universe takes place in an unnamed fantasy world dominated by small villages, factions, and kingdoms. This immediately creates a big problem. By everyone being identical, locations being virtually the same, the characters being the same, we automatically start fighting an uphill battle. So the first concern's actually gotta be identifying which and what characters belong in the locations. Even then, a lot of this stuff is hard to give concrete information of because of how the story treats characters as infinite copies and single people at the same time. Like the red and blue Royale kings are brothers in canon, but there's implied to be millions of the same kings, so it really does not matter. Let me start off by saying in canon, Clash is a digital world. It is one that can be traveled in and out of by breaking through dimensions on accident or deliberately creating portals to new locations. Because of that, our only sense of time comes from our release dates and given information, starting with the documentary Clash from the Past, starting in 1982. In Finland, we see a trio of friends making a game with each other. We got Helen, who's like the marketing and director, Simo, the key artist of everything and creating something for his love of what could be shared, and Ku, who's happy to be included. Instantly, they drop an arcade classic known as Clash, following a little barbarian as he goes on his own quest. This explodes to levels that even exceed like Pac-Man explosion of this time. Clash has become a household name within an obscenely short amount of time, and you can tell. Now, as far as I'm concerned, this is the creation of the Clash world by that logic, exposing us to the first few troops now. With very, very few exceptions, the majority of Clash characters and troops and soldiers are unidentifiable copy-paste creatures, with almost all of them existing to be a statistic and casualty in whatever battles they are sent off to. The life expectancy for most troops is around a couple days. We got goblins, traditional mischievous grunts that strive for hoarding unless domesticated, wizards, more intellectual and suave compared to the rest of the cast, and of course, the barbarian, the main face of the Clash Empire. They are dumb, they are durable, they will meet demises, and they want a battle. According to the barbarian career path, they all strive to reach the status of kings, but first they gotta survive all their previous positions, such as being stuffed into barrels, used as battering rams, running forward and dying, but better, then you get to be king. Yeah, no, this game is massive. Like, 15 Tickle Me Elmo crazes slammed into one. With months, these Finnish teens now got a company, cereals, toys, commercials, official collabs with the Garbage Pail Kids, instant millionaires. By 1993, the power has reached and corrupted Helena. Simo wishes to go back to all being friends, and Ku is once again happy to be included. New game, Clash Dash. The barbarians are cars now. They have piggyback ride races, and once again, massive, huge hit, it's bigger than your mother. And as popular around the neighborhood as her. Along with that, birth of so many new characters, so many of the beloved cast. You got Valkyries, who don't do that much, to be honest. This is the last time they get mentioned, actually. Then you got archers that are used pretty often, also have their queens and subclasses of troops, and few of them do need stuff. And then, back to back, Hog Rider and Builder. Holy shit. These are the best characters. It's literally these two at the top, Gap, another Gap, a slightly smaller Gap than the last Gap, Log, and Villagers. I like the Villagers. They're pretty funny. I like it when they clap at trees. Clash is undefeatable. With only 2 games, it has somehow managed to become one of the greatest things to ever thing, but somebody's gonna buckle. These 3 pals have all started to drift more and more, and Seymour, entirely dedicated to this brand and art form and empire, so dedicated he hasn't like tried starting a family or anything. He's become a bit of sour potato. He's out of the company. He leaves. Meanwhile, Helena, I kind of forgot the documentary. I watched it like a couple of weeks ago. She spends a majority of the decade managing to keep everything afloat, even without making any games. And Ku's still happy to be here. In 2002, we got the Dark Ages. Clash has entered its 20-year anniversary. That's a big deal. We need a new game or something. Helena then makes an official cologne. Complete banger. Now they got a profit off of this. So then they decide to make a Clash movie using those models as lead actors for the film. Doesn't go all too great. The movie is not critically liked all too well. That's fine. It establishes that in some corner of the world, Clash is more gritty and dark, total cash grab, but I'm assuming it does okay in the box office like the original Mario Bros. Movie does in terms of a performance. So then we're left with Helena stalling the company. You can kind of tell at this point that she's not at all qualified for the position she's been given. They've had a success, but they don't have the knowledge needed to continue forward as a leader or person in the business. So the next game's released in the mid-2000s, assumed to be in development hell, complete shift in tone and intention. Everybody hates it. Introducing Clash, Cradle of Darkness. It becomes an equivalent to a Sonic 06 type of game. An early internet YouTube reviewer is gonna have their evil character insist they review Cradle of Darkness for like a 50th episode special or something. AVGN is foaming at the mouth over this one. And Seymour, he is pissed. He's basically wasted like 15 years angrily watching his former friend drag his work into the ground. And I gotta be honest, both of these people kind of suck. It should have just communicated on both ends because one of you have no control and are unfamiliar with your new role. The other is overly protective of their work but never did anything to warrant it, dragging their successful franchise into the ground for no reason, just like real developers. So this new game made Seymour oh so grouchy. He doesn't like the property he left being mishandled. His solution? Arson. Clash headquarters burns down. Both careers have been disintegrated. Clash has now entered the dark ages, and this is devastating for the Clashlands. So much the majority of the land and culture started to transform on its own. The near decade of no proper leadership or objectives in their environment leads to massive stagnation across the land and characters. Any sense of culture, tameness, structure, all falling apart and snowballing into the environment we're gonna see in future entries of the story. But then, 2012. Clash is mysteriously coming back to life as an isometric town building game, one that represents stability, consistency, acting as a new pillar of hope for this world, but still would allow players to lead their armies to invade and raid other villages, keeping some portion of the classic games. We have entered the Renaissance, and it wasn't led by Stingy McStingepants or Arsonist Albert. No, it was Coup. Coup, always happy to be included, made this game with his own team and heart and saved it all, rolling into relevancy with his all-new company with the rights of the brand known and possibly beloved as Supercle. Alright, cool, origin story figured out. Now we know how long Clash has been around, that the two problematic individuals connected to this creation are out of the story, and that's a good thing. But now we have a new issue, in specific, where to go now. I'm under the impression that from this point onward is near or entirely identical to ours, the only outlier being Clash's success from the 30 years before the establishment of the mobile game. From here on, we need to see how Supercell works, and the general vibe I'm getting is that they have full control of this digitized world and place of all their games, animations, everything in this place is connected into one world. And this is a major problem because then all of their other franchises are canon under one continuity. We see in a couple animations that they interact that there has to be a shared world. The three most important games to confirm this is canon to some capacity are Boom Beach, mostly taking place on islands, so that's fine. Then there's Heyday, which has farms and consistent rivers connected to them, so all good. And then there's Brawl Stars. Okay, let's talk about Brawl Stars. Brawl Stars is a gateway drug that leads to League of Legends and Dota 2. Oh my, oh no, oh, there's a lot. Obviously, we can't cover all that today. Well, I mean, what if we divided and conquered? Like, maybe I could do it, or like maybe Don't interrupt me! Brawl Stars not quite my thing either way, considering the audience for this game and quite literally the most annoying sound design I have ever seen in a game. I'm being dead serious. The sound effects of this game is enough for me to never want to play it again. Even if the gameplay itself is fine, even if that paycheck from the video calls to me like the Green Goblin mask, I don't know if I have the willpower to decline it. This is more of a Western desertish themed thing. Closest environments might be like the Bone Pit in Clash Royale's desert. There's also an entire game dedicated to them all crossing over, that being Squad Busters, and this a mysterious wizard portals in heroes and villains from each game and corner of the world as they gotta fight the combined evils also being sent via portals. It's hard to say if this is a pocket dimension or multiverse, I hope not. But hey, Optimus Prime's here, so yeah, that's cool. I guess I would consider it a pocket dimension alternate realm or keyway of the multiversal travel that probably is here and how it goes down, being the way that characters warp in on any crossovers that may or may not exist. I mean, like, we already know about the ones that reach our world. I mean, they stole ever iconic soccer football attacker Holland from his home, and this can just happen to anyone. It happens to their employees. Like, how do you even tell human resources about that? I mean, there's no other choices really. The most recent update actually had a few characters warp home as a lore reason as to why they're getting removed from the game, which I think is very funny to justify removing characters you have to pour real time and money into. Wondering if this game shuts down in a year. It's 50-50 at this point. Okay, what's next? Oh yeah, 2016, our first exposure to Clash Royale. These are the Royal Kings, head of royalty of two separate empires near identical in all regards. Now multiply that by 1 million, maybe a few 100 million, and you get the picture. People that count in the Royale family but are not limited to, nor has to have this specified amount, because again, 100 million of these same kingdoms include princesses, princes, maybe dark princes, the cannoneer, duchesses, little princes, and the deceased father or even older than father royal ghosts. Some staff found on the payrolls of these kingdoms include guards, knights, executioners, royal recruits, royal chefs, and musketeers. But it doesn't end there, because the royal king has been shown to travel across the lands and especially villages to recruit anyone who wants to work for them. However, we also have to bring up that there is inconsistent quality within these troops and playable cards in games that we see in Clash-O-Rama, meaning that the players are given the most ideal iterations of these characters by default as they participate in some sort of war or feuds. It's not really expressed why they do fights, but maybe it's easier to resolve their issues with these kinds of small battles that go on millions of times every day in arenas that are relatively close to the kings being reachable within a day, but also close enough to water, whereas we see when the fisherman tries to warn them of flood before it hits everybody. As for the NPC kings, they're the ones who receive the majority of flack and hate, being the ones who experience the most out-of-world problems that players should be grateful we don't gotta deal with, like this Clash Venture animation where the royal ghost takes over Red King's role and he's forced to fend for himself. It was really funny. There was an attempt to make this series, it wasn't worth it. So what I'm taking all of this as is the idea that each of these locations, stories, even every single move that is made by every single player of all of these games are canon, including all 300 million villages we have created. They're spread across a giant world with a seemingly endless amount of locations and lives within them. But when it comes down to things like official shorts and commercials, I'm gonna assume there's two kings we follow in most animations, and whenever it's O-Rama, it's different kings and rules. The only way to differentiate all of these are with small body type differences and different voice actors. It's really the only way you can tell any of this can remotely work together, knowing the variables that come before it. And even then, how does this world even function? Makes sense on a geographic sense with all the millions upon millions of small factions of troops, armies, farmers, brawl stars, all that. Because like every player is canon. Troops will name drop who they're donating to, or else it's like in their clan. Known examples include Banana Pants 87, struggling with bunions, Angry Neeson 52, Liam Neeson is canon, it helps him vent. And of course, Yo Mama. Not to mention the fact that every playable village has 100% been confirmed to be on the bodies of water. But even then, these bodies of water lead to master builders, builder bases, builders who have ascended to a greater plane and expand upon these nations. Well, here's what I came up with. Clash villages found in animations, O-Rama, all of Clash Royale's arenas and kingdoms, the mountains of clan capitals, and Heyday all take place on mainland with rivers or lakes nearby, each having their own cultures and troops ideologies formed. Barbarians can talk in O-Rama, mute everywhere else. A lot of the O-Rama villages are landlocked. That's enough for me to recognize how different each respective little province is. I'm assuming there's also a Great Wall of Clash here. There's a Great Wall to the level of China's that we know of. That's its own can of worms. All Clash villages players created, not from animations unless specified otherwise, are on the perimeters of bodies of water, as is confirmed by the Barbarian, Wiz, and Hog Riders sailing across the ocean for 5 days straight without stops. If I'm estimating correctly, they travel roughly 600 miles across this body where they find the builder base. Though I gotta mention, this isn't an assured distance, only in this case. Like other master builders can be like a couple miles away, no real confirmation, all being being perfectly matched by any village that dares to sail out there on any direction. In the oceans, we got Boom Beach Islands, other tropics and locations, Clash Quest, there's a lot, we'll get there when we get there. And then anywhere else not really mattering, we got Brawl Stars along with any other class spin-offs adventuring locations that may be outliers. With this incredibly shaky baseline of the general world, 30-ish years in the making, we can finally start looking at the more intricate aspects of this all. Again, no Brawl Stars. Gotta stress that now to little Hunter in the 4th grade already asking for it. I know they have their culture shared via some matching clothing, and that Hog Rider is adjacent to SpongeBob and Buzz Lightyear to some capacity, but we can move on. Choopo, again, maybe. I'm right here. Just give me the word. Shut up. Stop, please. Please stop. I got a good rhythm going. You can talk in a minute. Well, I mean, like, you invited me here. Well, it's not your turn to talk. Plus, your voice is kind of annoying. I gotta mentally prepare myself to talk to me. I mean, you. So a big thing with Clash's characters, mostly having extremely limited lifespans, is that 30 years to us equates to possibly thousands of years worth of generations in some groups. Most created life pretty instantly has a baseline of intelligence and memories, for them being reduced to a puddle of elixir that brought them to life is the highest honor imaginable. Almost lower class citizens who are being thrusted to their fates, while royalty, villagers, builders, and creatures staying away from battles get to watch and reap the benefits of their sacrifices. There's 3 things all life strives to do here: win battles, adventure, have fun. Nothing else really matters to them. They are created with the elixir that is drilled out of the ground, literally more important than water to them. It is their blood. Though there's also dark elixir, which some troops are reliant on, and is what transforms certain troops to other ones, such as the barbarian kings from barbarians and the archer queens to archers. Goblins who ingest dark elixir transform into bowlers. Minions quite literally can only come to life with this goop. When the time is right, a single troop will be blessed with the honor of dark elixir and be able to represent their homes as the true immortal warrior they are. As for other Clash heroes and champions, it's more just like a prestige thing. Your champions are powerful warriors or vital figures who stand as the leaders of whatever location they represent. For example, the Skeleton King is a skeleton who represents the undead. The Golden Knight is a knight who ascended upon the need of facial hair. Not a bit, by the way. Having facial hair is an indicator of power in Clash. The Mighty Miner is a stronger veteran miner. Picture is clear. When it comes down to the champions, the royalty, the villages, and anything that people interact with, there is almost always correlation. Again, a majority of this story is fragmented factions, so a majority of the Clash world is just explaining where everything has come from. So with that being said, they all strive to be the strongest for glory. No known purpose other than fighting and having good times, since those are like the only things so many troops are bound to. Though in their free time, troops and whatnot will do what's typically expected in our own world. We see a lot of tavern life and domestication of a decent margin of the populations. Like, for example, we know there's an establishment of businesses, like one builder's Hogmax, holidays like Clashmas, Halloween, Clashiversary, and the Chinese Lunar New Year. Take that how you will. And of course, we got plenty of examples of music and partying being a big part of their lives, along with more laxed pastimes like chess in the game Clash Mini. This is the best life we'll get in Clash. Creatures like golems, dragons, yetis, even giants, fellas who would normally destroy these lands, instead come far and wide to thrive in a mildly modernized environment. It is because of that I'm wildly confused about how anything functions. It doesn't make sense, because so often lives are treated like nothing. Skeletons, barbarians, goblins, lava hounds, all characters are shown over and over and over being slaughtered, and like memorials are held and whatever, but even after that, everyone acts like nothing else they're doing matters. The only exception is the Royale King, the only person who consistently expresses fear of being on the front lines, but then is also more calculated even when being sillier. Like Clash, can you pick a side, please? Okay, cool, the story sucks. Let's talk about what respective species, troops, and kingdoms do in their own times. First up, let's look at Clash Quest, a delisted game following troops instructed by the Blue King to explore and possibly expand their empire. Besides obvious wildlife like new variants of dragons, there's some darker opposition, even worse than the opposing kingdoms or villages. Legions more or less concerned about themselves than anything, those being the skeletons and goblins. While there's both, obviously the ones that have been converted to our side do not do greater harm. These are armies. All players rule over at least some of the skeletons and goblins, though each have their own issues. With the skeletons, it's more of a problem of preventing an undead uprise, not really confirmed nor denied what brings skeletons back to life, but likely an option in the sheer amount of magic. Personally, looking at the witches for this one, not really the night witches though, they're more of a bat tamers than anything. Pretty chill to be real. No, Mother Witch and Regular Witch both do pretty uncool things. Like the former turns people into pigs for the lulz, and the latter summons skeletons as her children, I think. And then I'm pretty sure it's implied or confirmed the giant skeletons, the ones with the silly hat and the jaw, they're the fathers. Makes sense to me. So they aren't the remains of anyone, being born as these creatures, little mischievous babies that witches aren't able to raise all too well. So a good chunk of them end up becoming shitty adults over like a nature versus nurture type of thing. Even then, a lot of them spend their childhoods in traps or barrels or as sword fodder toward defenses. And then as adults, where they grow a lower jaw, skeleton puberty indicates they grow a mandible, then they become bombers, guards, even take driver's training to pilot balloons. It's a tragic life for little Larry and Peter skeletons across the land. Those are the most common names, I believe. Possibly the biggest honor a non-king or giant skeleton can have is being a guard, as we see in the short film Lost and Crowned, following local village skeletons Peter and Larry as they guard the Red King's crown for an entire night, only for Larry to damage it and ruin it for the both of them. There's not much else in there, and part of this due to being about the relationship of the duo. Peter and Larry loving each other as brothers in the end. I mean, world building wise, it's just confirming how disruptive skeletons are without their jaw. It's like the equivalent of a frontal cortex developing. As for goblins, they are far more of an aggressive infestation. The sheer amount of them everywhere makes everybody uncomfortable. Infamous for being pets in all regards, greedy and mischievous critters full of selfish desires. Almost all of them are assholes simply because they can, and this is because of a major biological error in the goblins. They get dumber as they age. Genius inventors and engineers as infants and complete idiots by adulthood with a ridiculously short life expectancy, with 1 year equating to 60 goblin years. Their lives are miserably short. Well, what this means is that the goblins have no idea about what a mortgage is, or how to start a 401k, or even that you don't have to rinse your cans and bottles before recycling them. By the way, if you're doing that, stop doing that. That's not good for you. The only plausible exception to the brain rot seems to be royalty and Goblinstein. Even then, you could argue that all of them are driven by so much hate and pettiness that it forces their brains to function harder. So the youngins gotta help advance them. Adults, when controlled, are useful grunts who can comply under simple tasks that all parties abuse, good guys and bad. And then the goblins just make more goblins because they're stupid and don't realize that a child is a big commitment, leading to everything looping back to the start. One day, the Blue King would crash land on in their home territory in the islands, be brought to a goblin queen, then they would have to find their way to escape from it all through Clash Royale battles. This is only one though. We have knowledge of banished goblins seen on Clash Quests in the single-player campaign in Clash of Clans, where you gotta fight the goblins in villages and raid them. If nothing else was done about it, everything would be ruled by goblins, but thanks to everyone's efforts of being over-leveled for these stupid campaigns, we don't have to worry about them. Except for Goblinstein. Stop using that card, actually. Mega Knight 2, stop using the Mega Knight. And if you use any of these cards, your mommy and daddy don't love you, you're a bitch, couldn't be me with my pekkas. Hey, Choopo Tupo, what does your main deck look like? Yeah, I actually run a pretty tight hog cycle. It's overall gotten me a pretty consistent win rate of like never mind, I regret asking that. I feel insulted being in the same room as you. Oh, speaking of which, these P.E.K.K.A guys are weird. There's adult P.E.K.K.As, the dog one, and even mini P.E.K.K.As. All you need to know about minis is that they like pancakes and the royal chef hooks them up. Now, P.E.K.K.A's origins have always been kind of an uncertain thing. Could be the builder, could be magic, but recently we got more of a likely answer via the spirits, little elemental friends used in fighting and as resources. There's 4 spirits usable and a 5th one. The nature spirit got rejected for being useless. Then she took a nap around the armor. Boom, P.E.K.K.A time. Let's just assume that for all other armor that this is the P.E.K.K.A. Now we can move on. We seem to have some more locations to make note of. First up, Hog Mountain, the place where hog riders seem to have found their ways of origin. Not every hog rider is seen coming from here. Like in Orama, there's a retired hog rider with his own family hating his wife and stuff. Then we watch another one get raised by his own hog, but a lot of them do. Same is likely for the Ram Rider. There's probably like a Ram Valley across the street or something. Hog Mountain is the home of the Champion Monk, a hog rider who seems to have ascended beyond the plane, and maybe a hog. Couldn't really see much else here besides there is an established relationship between all parties, that the man and hog should see and trust each other. They are loyal friends for life, parental in some instances, a boy and his dog, but awesome. Then we got the Forest Gang, the Bandit Folk, a small group of thieves or defecting selfish characters across the land. I couldn't find too much with these ones, more so doing their own thing if anything. I hold some interest in the Frozen Peak and Snow locations for one very simple relationship. Not Ice Golem, not Mother Witch. Lumberjack and Log have generational beef. Lumberjack's a wacky barbarian who loves rage spells, spilled it on a chopped tree, created the log. And log's purpose is revenge. Gaining life has fueled it with hate, driven to ruin all those who wrong it and its fallen tree brethren. So lumberjacks are not pals. It's a sensitive topic. With the mention of the spells, we gotta look at Spell Valley, Spell Factory Wizards. They got plenty of control with manipulating all life as we know it. I would argue the wizards are treated too kindly. They do awful things. I mean, sure, they got nice hair and whatever, but so much of what they do rubs me weird. One of the commercials is creating a rabbit and then using it as a bomb on a town hall. Like, why is that something you can do? How often are you doing that? I think of all troops that aren't royalty, wizards get the most appreciation. Annually showing new spells and magic created, having elemental types with their own skills. By the way, Electric Wizard's not a real wizard. It was an inventor who accidentally drank a Zap potion instead of coffee. It gets an honorary badge. And even then, the spells, these are horrible. Some of these aren't too bad, like healing spell, it's great. It almost reminds me of the fact that Clash of Clans healers are never in the CGI animations. Did you know about that? I've watched so many of these, like hours of these. I've seen a battle healer, never a regular one. It's always confused me why they never have. The clone spell is complicated. Clones gain life and sentience, but die in one hit. So I would argue that's a moral nightmare. There's like a Santa spell that curses any drinker to become Santa, and we have 3 known victims: a hog rider, a builder, and then like a regular Santa. I know that this is a world with tons and tons of weird, wacky attributes, but it still worries me a lot. But you know what? I saved the best weird location and corner of this franchise for last. The builders, holy moly, that smile, that charisma. Without builders, Clash is nothing. Builder is the top specimen of Clash. Immortal, geniuses, appreciated by all, needed for each and every village, build, kingdom, and smidge of progress. There's a whole system of builders, troops who wish and pale in comparison to reach their glory. Isn't that right, Goblin Builder? You only needed to make one troop to make the best. And we're not talking about the Orama builders. Those are fakers. They don't even smile. Not looking at how just like every goddamn type of troop, there's gotta be a prestige thing. Like, that's the only way they know how to make characters or story. When you see the little hammer pal, you know something's getting done. Somehow, if you perfect perfection, you're left with the grand builders, responsible for preparations on clan capitals. Then, of course, we have builder bases, being entirely controlled by these mellowed out, more experienced builders with more ideas, ones that reclined in their own islands. You know what? These ones are fine, very electric based. They managed to create machinery life via the Sparky, for example. By the way, in case you were wondering, Sparky is a kind soul who volunteers at cleaning in the beach and cleaning up efforts. They're very nice. One fact I think is funny is based on one of the animations, Barbarian charges underwater. He's implied to have nonstop been under there from May 3rd, 2017 to June 9th, 2019. 2 years holding breath with sprinting, no breaks. What are you things? And then right when he reaches land, Master Builder jumps on his back. 4 years returning to the regular base. You have a boat. Take the boat. And above all else, the ones we love more than any other, the regular builders, the soul of the villages. When they leave after non-stop disrespect, villages go to shambles and it all gets ruined, so do not disrespect them. When they want to create horrible, unfathomable monsters that horrify everybody else, I can at least defend it, because the builders are confident with their abominations. Everybody else tries keeping skeletons in the closets. Builders are proud of the freaks they build, so we can't complain now, can we? And Hammer Jam, oh! 2 weeks of so much building, it's glorious. A period of builders going from 1/10 of their power to their 1/8. They know how big of a deal it is until it wasn't. In 2024, Hammer Jam was almost ruined when Builder's ever iconic hammer mysteriously vanished across like 300 million villages. And then Minion Prince private investigators, all 300 million of them, went to respective villages after days of seeking, only to discover 300 million different hammers up their asses of the 300 million giants. I hate it here. How big is this planet? Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, and the rest of you are incomprehensible. It is like trying to make a drivable bridge out of a jigsaw puzzle. You gotta be even stupid to consider it functional. And that is it. That is all. Most of the other stuff boils down to career paths, totem poles of power, extra critters and creatures connected to other regions of Clash. That's just the gist after all this time. And you know what? It's funny. In a weirdly nihilistic way, this entire planet has to be designed to be Sisyphus-like. With as much progress as there is in almost all these characters are meant to be treated as clones in some comedic instances, yet others treated as citizens of debatably functioning societies. I kinda hate the existences of digital life, all being code forced to live, having the intelligence and capabilities of us, but practically no time to live and accomplish anything with a few exceptions. And sure, there's more we might learn about in the future, like how big of an issue it is for the Royale King to be assassinated, or why there's a Purple King, or how the bench system works in Clash Royale's animations. Maybe even understanding why some celebrities are so interested in all this stuff would be cool, like why does James Corden need to hear about a single Clash of Clans fight as a bedtime story? There's so many little small things that pile up, it really just seems like facts more than anything. Across the time in the game, there really has not been a story developed, unless Supercell went more into single player and had it so all player villages join forces to defeat the goblin armies, or have a Clash Royale co-op level mode where you have to beat certain decks with decks of your own with cutscenes between or something. The tidbits pile up. I can talk about things like some troops being under family trees, elections for barbarian kings existing, or why Cody Rhodes and Liam Neeson got way into the game. Maybe even the implication that by 2062 Clash will look like this, or why anyone thirsts over any of these characters unless it's Builder. As for what to expect now, just wait a couple weeks when the updates hit the streets and cause the competitive scene that exists somehow to panic as the bust mechanics get included and ruin everything. This is about Clash Royale. They're throwing darts to come up with update ideas. It's awful. Why are there evolutions? Why are there champions? Why are there anything? This is stupid. There's also Project Rise, a continuation of a failed game they started. Top down, seems to have like a lot of worlds and biomes. I see the potential for a real story here if they choose to do so. I feel like that's something completely severely lacking. There's too much focus on little gags or factoids that restrain keeping people captivated. I say that as someone with a village that looks like this. Please don't make fun of me. I like the builder-based mode more. But in conclusion, hog rider. I couldn't think of an end. That's it? Well, no, I mean, I normally, at this point, tell people to subscribe with my guilt statistic, plug some stuff, and then give some advice, but then after I'm done, is something wrong? Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, you invited me for a collab. It just feels like we're, like, I don't know. I feel like there's no need for me to be here other than to plug my channel. By the way, check out my channel where I make awesome, terrific, lovely, pleasant videos, and I'm not as uncool as this guy. Like, I only read a couple paragraphs on this entire script. You couldn't even tell it was me. Our voices are too similar. No, we sound totally different. Okay, what is your beef? What is your issue? I don't know. Maybe my issue comes from the fact I traveled all the way up here only to be left with some bad vibes. I don't really appreciate the attitude you're bringing here. And honestly, I don't deserve it. Well, this is just who I am. Is there something wrong with the way I am? Well, maybe if you act this way to everyone, then maybe there is. Maybe you're afraid of sharing your space. Why am I even here? This is so unprofessional. It's insulting. I mean, I did nothing to warrant this behavior. This is entirely your fault. I will never collaborate with you again.